So you're thinking about moving to Celina, Texas? Well, grab your sweet tea and buckle up because I'm going to go through the real pros and the real cons of what it's like living in Celina, Texas. Now, we're not going to be talking about those generic things like it's growing fast or it's got great schools. Nope. We're going to dive in and we're going to talk about some of the things that you may not know about. Now, we're going to be talking about the red dirt's going to follow you everywhere. Let me tell you. All right, so these things are not going to be the things that you're going to find on Google, and they're not going to be the things that your cousin tells you about because he thinks he drove through Celina. We're going to go ahead and let's get after it right now. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is you can actually see the stars. Now look, yes, Celina is growing, but the first pro is you actually can see the night sky. It is not filled with neon lights or the big Walmart sign yet, but it could be coming because this is one of the fastest growing areas in the area. Now, we all know that, but right now, you can actually take a blanket, lay out in your backyard, and you can look at the constellations. You can actually find the Big Dipper. Now, I never can find out which one that is, or the Milky Way. I don't know. I'm just star challenged, I guess. But you are able to actually enjoy a true night sky. Okay, on to pro number 2. But before we get into that, you guys can see we're doing something a little different, okay? We are actually here in Celina at one of the model homes for Union, Maine. And as we go through the video, we're also going to be walking around and we're going to be taking a look at it because that way you can actually see some of the homes that are here and that are available. But let's go ahead and head into pro number 2, and that is Friday Night Lights is real energy. Okay, look guys, you're in Texas and Texas loves its football, and Friday night is full of football mania, but even more so in a small town. You're gonna have everybody going to the football game because football is huge here. You've got the little kids that want to be the cheerleaders. You've got your Pee-wee football players. They want to attend the football games because they want to see the big kids play. So just get ready. Your Friday night entertainment is most likely going to be a football game or two, all right? But it is so much fun. I remember, growing up, we would go to football games. When my daughter was growing up, we always went to the football games, and it was just a great family environment, and we get a little competitive as well. So if you don't like football, then that might be a con for you, but if you're a football fan in high school, football is absolutely the best around here, then you are going to love Friday nights around here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about one of the cons, and we've moved into the office, and I really do like this office because it is right off of the kitchen, so you can still feel like you're a part of the family if you have to go to work or you work at home, but you can also close it off. But that's gonna lead us into our first con, and that is, well, the commute it's a real thing, okay? So look, I'm just gonna put it this way. The commute is probably going to be character building. If you've got to commute into Dallas, you have really one option, and that's going to be the North Dallas Tollway. And that's okay, except for they're doing construction. Now, right now, the tollway ends about at Frisco, but they are building it out. And actually, the Dallas North Tollway is going to go all the way from downtown Dallas up to Oklahoma. And that's going to be fantastic for those of you that are going to commute into Dallas. But right now, you might want to make sure that you have your phone loaded up or Spotify with all of your favorite podcasts. Download some good Audible books because you're going to be on the road for a little while. Now, the thing is too, is there's so many other employment opportunities up in this area because you're very close to Frisco and McKinney and Plano. You know, that's really only about a 20-minute drive. And you have got major corporations that have relocated into this area. So just be mindful if you're moving to Celina, you might want to consider where it is that you're working as well, because that could easily add an extra 2.5 hours to your commute. And I don't know about you guys, but that's the last thing I want to do is spend an hour and a half in the car after I've worked a long day. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the next con number 2. Okay, con number 2. You know, small town charm does sometimes mean limited options, and that's no exception here. Celina is a farming community. It is very much a small town, but it is growing exponentially. And so right now, your options are going to be very limited. If you're looking for a nightlife, you're not going to get it, okay? Your nightlife is going to be the pro that we talked about earlier, Friday night lights, all right? But you also have other limited options as far as your grocery stores, your restaurant options. There's not a lot that is out in this area. It is expanding, and we are seeing a lot of growth in companies moving out here. As a matter of fact, they're going to be opening up a new HEB that's going to be about a 7-minute drive here from Legacy Hills, which is great, but it's not open right now. You know, if you're looking for an evening to go out for dining for a special occasion, for a birthday or an anniversary, you're most likely going to be driving into Frisco or Plano or McKinney, because those are going to give you more options for your night out on the town. Now, with that being said, the downtown area is absolutely adorable, and they do a lot of events in the downtown area. So that's going to lead us into our next pro. Okay, so now we've moved into the primary bedroom, and wow, I've got to tell you, this is really beautiful. I love this. All right, so let's talk about our next pro. And our next pro is going to be our community events, because Celina doesn't just host community events, they live for them. And they have so many events that are happening throughout the year. You know, the downtown square really does transform for their major events. They do a Cajun Fest. Yes, they do a crawfish boil. Now, if you love Cajun food and you love crawfish, you definitely don't want to miss that. But they also have their 4th of July. They have Splash and Blast. They have Oktoberfest. And Oktoberfest is a huge deal. You know, grab you some of that German beer. Just saying. But they do have so many of these big community events that brings the community together. So you feel like you are a part of the community. You're not just stuck out here in a suburb somewhere. You really feel like you have made friends with everyone in the community, and you get to know the town. And that is one of the reasons why so many people are really moving out to this area, because they are still looking for that small town charm. But you've got to know that there's going to be that trade-off, because yes, the small town charm does meet some of the limitations that you have. But I tell you what, this community, they make up for it because of all the events that they host. All right, now let's go in and we're going to talk about another con. This can be a big one, and I'm going to tell you, if you work from home, this is something you really do need to consider. And that is, your internet can be a struggle out here. You know, Celina still struggles with the development and getting all of the, infrastructure. And when I talk about that, I mean, I'm talking about your internet providers and things of that nature, because it's not necessarily going to be really reliable. I remember when I moved out to my little town of Fate, And it's the same thing. It was a very small farming community, which was great because that was what I was looking for. However, number one, I didn't have a lot of internet options. And number two, it seemed like it was going out every other day. Now, as we grew and as the whole area started being built out, now that's changed. We've got fiber, so internet's not a problem. But just know, if you are working from home, if you're remote work, that's going to be something you really need to look at, see what your options are before you buy, and then realize, oh crap, I don't have good internet out here. What am I going to do? So definitely want to check out what these internet options are, because you know what? There is absolutely nothing worse than being on a Zoom call and it freezes up mid-sentence and you got that goofy look on your face. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's happened to you before. All right, now let's talk about another pro. Okay, so as you can see, we have moved into the dining area, and the dining area is really right off of the kitchen and the living room. So this is a very open space. But here's our next pro, and I don't know, I think this is really cool because you can go farm to table really without even trying. We mentioned this a little bit earlier. There's a lot of farmland that's still out here. And so it is not going to be unusual for you to be able to get fresh vegetables from your neighbors or from the farmer's market in, the downtown area. So it is still a true thing to where you've got the local farmers and the locally sourced honey that you can purchase right here in the community. I mean, hey, you don't have to go to Whole Foods, which is probably a good thing because there's not one around here. So if you're looking for the fresh fruit, the fresh vegetables, the honey, the local honey, which helps with allergies, then that is absolutely going to be a pro. And since your grocery stores are a little bit further away right now until H-E-B goes in, you've got a great source for getting your fresh fruits and vegetables. All right, now let's go ahead and we're talking about our next con. All right, now, we've had comments before in our videos about, the weather here in Texas and tornadoes. So let's just go ahead and put that right out there. You've got weather roulette, and Celina probably really puts it on display a little bit better than anybody else, in my opinion. So we're in the North Texas area, and yeah, you get severe weather. You get thunderstorms that will shake you to the core. You will get tornado warnings. You will get strong winds. But if you live in Texas, that's just a part of it. You'll have bipolar temperatures. It'll go, one day it'll be 80 and the next day it'll be 40. That is just a part of living in the North Texas area. So, we're used to it. The sirens go off, the tornado sirens go off. Half the time, I don't even jump in the closet. Now, with that being said, I am watching the weather. I am keeping on top of it because I want to know what's going on. And I always turn in to Channel 8, WFAA, Pete Delkus for my weather updates. But just know, you will have times of the year, and it's going to be particularly in the spring and in the fall, where you're going to have your severe weather. And so if you hear a siren, a tornado siren going off, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a tornado, but there's a real good chance that there is. We're in Tornado Alley, and so that's just a part of living here in Texas. All right, now we're gonna talk about one more con before we head back into the pros. Okay, so our next con, bugs and critters. Now we've talked about this in videos before. You're gonna have bugs. You're gonna have critters, and some of them are the size of Texas. But you're especially going to have them here in the Celina area. You're going to have grasshoppers, which, by the way, they're gonna eat your flowers, they're gonna eat your plants, so just get used to it. You're gonna have mosquitoes after it rains, and heck, even when it doesn't rain. You are gonna also possibly see some snakes. I found a snake in my pool, and I kid you not, it was that big. I was not a fan, and matter of fact, I screamed like a girl. I had to get my neighbor to come over and get it out of the pool because I don't do snakes. That was not fun. But you're out here in farmland. You're out in areas that haven't been fully developed, and in particular here at Legacy Hills where we're at right now. We were driving through farmland to get out here because we're in the northern part of Celina. And so you're going to have a lot of bugs. You know, the thing is, get you a good pest control company and have them come out and spray on a regular basis. Then also make sure that you are investing in bug spray. Matter of fact, just buy stock in a bug spray company because you want to keep these handy. You want to keep it on stock because that's just going to be a part of life. You're also going to get June bugs, and it typically starts happening in May, and those things are vicious. They don't bite, they don't hurt you. They only come out really in the evening, but when they see light, then they fly to it, they're attracted to it, and so I've gotten them in my hair before, and that wasn't fun. But they only last about a month, which is a good thing. So you're gonna have the bugs and the critters, and as a matter of fact, because this is a newer area that's being developed, you're probably gonna have field mice, okay? Don't be surprised that if you see a mouse or even bunnies, oh my gosh, guys, there will be little baby bunnies and you'll see them in your backyard and it's really cute. But just know that's gonna be part of moving out to this area. All right, now let's go and we're gonna talk about another pro. All right, now we're on to our next pro. And that's gonna be, you've got a front porch culture. What do I mean by that? You know, being a smaller community, people are very friendly, and you're gonna have your neighbors that are gonna come over and they're gonna talk to you. You're gonna have people that are going to be passing you along the street. They're gonna say hi. They're gonna ask you how you're doing. And you may end up even talking to strangers. You're gonna have these neighborhoods where all the parents are gonna gather on the driveway. And we used to do this. It was so fun. All the parents with kids would sit on the driveway. We would have our folding chairs. We picked a central location, and you will see that out here. And the kids will all get out and they will play in the streets together. Now, we had a cul-de-sac, so that made it really easy, but you get to know your neighbors. The kids go to school with each other. They become friends. And so it is going to be a very friendly community. So if you're not used to that, that does take a little bit getting used to. Some people aren't. You know, depending on where you're at right now, you may not have that friendly Texas charm. But just know that your neighbors are gonna be there. They're gonna have your back. You're gonna go into the downtown area and you're gonna see tons of friends, and they're all going to wave you over, and they're gonna wanna talk, and they're gonna wanna visit with you. And so that is really one of the reasons why so many families are moving out to this area. I know when I moved out to Fate, and my daughter was very young. I mean, she was 10, 11 years old. And we met a group of friends, and we would call it Friday night driveway time. There would be about 8 of us parents. We would sit on the driveway. Sometimes we'd even pull the grill out and we would grill, and the kids would run around. They would play, and they went anywhere from 3 years old up till about 11 or 12. And they all grew up together. And that was a friendship that was formed that they still have to this day. My daughter is an adult, and it's really cool to see those friendships that are formed. So get to know your neighbors, and if you don't, they're gonna come over and get to know you. All right, let's go ahead and we're gonna move to our next con. Okay, so we have moved outside. As you can see, we've got a great backyard. They've done the built-in kitchen here at the Union Main home. And we're gonna talk about our next con. And this is one that a lot of people don't think about, okay? But you're in Texas, so you better get your boots ready, because the North Texas red dirt, it's no joke around here. You will get it everywhere. It's gonna be all over your car. It's gonna be all over your clothes. It's gonna be all over your shoes. Just be ready to spend a lot of time at the car wash, or if you like to do your car wash by hand, that's what your weekends are going to be spent doing, because you're going to have a lot of red dirt. Now, I would also recommend that you invest in a really good vacuum cleaner, because I swear it gets in there and it takes forever to get out. But you do have the red dirt. You do need to know that, guess what? It's just going to be all over the place. And so that's just one of the things that we are used to. And, you know, kind of it feeds into that being a part of the farm country, being out in the country. I mean, guys, I'm standing outside and it's so quiet out here. So that is another pro, is just the quietness of the neighborhood. You know, you don't have all of the city traffic. You don't have all of the sirens blaring at all times of the day and the night. It is so peaceful and quiet out here. I absolutely love it. All right, now we're gonna wrap up with one more pro. All right, so this is gonna be our last pro. And, you know, when you move out away from the city, one of the things that we notice is you've got a low crime rate. Now, I think part of that goes into the fact that neighbors get to know neighbors. You've got people that watch out for you. But we are in an area that really has one of the lowest crime rates in this whole area. I mean, when we take a look at it, you know, and I'm going to tell you, it doesn't mean that it's crime free, okay? Every place I've ever lived, no matter how large or how small, does have crime. But you don't have the high crime rates that you would get in the city. And that is one of the things that people really do enjoy in being out here. But like I said, it goes back to being a part of the community. It goes back to being a part of a small town. It goes back to neighbors knowing neighbors and watching out for each other. So those are our cons, those are our pros about Celina, Texas. I think this is a fabulous area. Matter of fact, you know, I would have loved to have lived out here. I would have loved, when I was looking to move and make a move into kind of the small country area, I wish this would have been available, because I've got the conveniences of the master plan communities. They have got all of the amenities in all of these master plan communities that are going up here, but they've kept the small town charm, which so many people are wanting to make sure that they have that in a part of their life. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure that you check out a couple of our home tours that we've done here at Legacy Hills, because I think you're going to be surprised at what you can get and how affordable it is, and why this is one of the most popular areas that people are moving to. And as always, hopefully we'll see you around the town.